1 week after completing St Oswald's Way, I was back out again, this time on a 17-mile circular taking me to the village of Hale near Liverpool. I'd follow the River Mersey along the old Mersey Way footpath, and I'd eventually see a 9-foot 3-inch giant, which I was keen to meet. For this trail that I'd planned, it would follow the old Mersey Way, which seemed to be an abandoned footpath no longer walked. In fact, they'd gone as far as to remove most of the trail markers. I'd head along that trail down the Mersey to the start, and then cut north through an industrial estate to what would be a sort of boring end of the trail. But as I was about to find out, the trail itself was going to very pleasantly surprise me. This is the epic statue of John Middleton, standing at 9 feet 3 inches tall, which was exactly as history would have us believe he was. Originally hired as the bodyguard of Gilbert Ireland, the landlord and sheriff of Lancashire, he was once challenged to a wrestling competition where he won the massive sum of £20, enormous in those days. Sadly though, he was cheated out of that money and would go on to die a pauper at 45 years old in the village of Hale, where his remains are buried to this day. Here, fenced off, is his grave, and as you can see, it boldly proclaims his height of 9 feet and 3 inches, beating Robert Wadlow at 8 feet 11. On Ordnance Survey maps, the Mersey Way still exists, though parts of it have vanished. But, now being on the trail, I noticed that apart from Mersey Way sign markers, every other aspect of the trail had vanished. Discs marking the way had gone, and parts of the trail were now diverted where dog walkers had taken a more natural path. It looked as if the Mersey Way was no longer considered a trail of any importance. But history records it at being at least 22 miles long, beginning at the estuary and ending much further along. Not considered a long distance walking trail, it did seem sad to say goodbye to what would have been a beautiful trail, and as you can tell from these shots, which take in the Welsh mountains all the way on the horizon, it would have been a beautiful trail. At this point, I really was struggling to get over how beautiful this trail was. With the weather being perfect, a gentle breeze coming in from the estuary, I was just soaking it up, enjoying the views and enjoying the foliage, which was pleasant, green, lush. It was just fantastic. I was bowled over, and sadly where I come from, Liverpool bears a bad reputation. But quite the opposite was true. The people I passed were friendly. Even though they were only walking the dog, they made an effort to ask how I was, and I was able to return the gesture. And as I sat for a break, a sandwich and a drink, I was just stunned at the beauty of the River Mersey. This stretch of tarmac at the end of the runway was heavily populated by families and couples coming to see planes taking off directly above their heads. I couldn't help but smile, at one point thinking I was out in the middle of nowhere, then coming round the corner to dozens of people eager to see aircraft taking off. No, this isn't the set of the latest Mad Max movie. This is the beginning of the Mersey Way Trail, and as you can see from the graffiti, it's clearly now a den for gang members. And with a little bit of fear in my stomach, I explored it but quickly moved on. Now I knew why the trail had been abandoned, and why, if I was to start at the end of the trail and come this way, I would have been terrified to finish that day's hiking. Leaving that behind me in a poverty-stricken industrial estate, I headed straight for the main road, not hanging around this time. Knowing full well that I'd left the best of the trail behind me, I was saddened to see a strange, very strange phenomenon. On every street, on every road, no matter the wealth of the area, rubbish littered hedges, gutters and side roads. It was the strangest thing I'd ever seen on the trail, and as the planes flew by almost within touching distance, I marvelled at how at one place could be so dirty. Which is why, when I brought my coffee cup all this way back to Hale to put in the bin, I made a big show of actually binning it. It might have been the only piece of rubbish binned that day. As the trail came to an end at the car, I was glad to have done an easy 17.4 miles. The weather had been perfect, and most of the trail had been wonderful. But as I headed home, I was already planning the next trip, and especially with thoughts on the Cotswolds Way next year with Patrick, Tim and Bill. But in the meantime, I would no doubt see you all next time back on the trail.